Hi guys, this is a video of Digoxin, which is a cardiac glycoside used for acute congestive heart failure. So basically, first of all, we're gonna discuss the normal physiology of cardiac muscle cell. There is a constant sympathetic tone going on over the heart, which acts via the beta 1 receptor on the heart. It is a GS protein coupled receptor. GS is stimulatory. It's gonna convert ATP to CAMP via the G protein coupled receptor mechanism, and CAMP it will activate the protein kinase, and the protein kinase will stimulate the opening of L type of calcium channels present on the heart's cardiac muscle cell. Okay, this will lead to influx of calcium. Now CAMP undergoes normal metabolism via the enzyme phosphodiesterase and converts into AMP. Okay, there is a constant sympathetic tone over the heart. Remember that when this calcium comes in, it will go to sarcoplasmic reticulum. SR stands for sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum has got, sorry for that notification sound, sarcoplasmic reticulum has got ryanodine receptors. It's sort of a spring which pulls back on activation, and it will lead to release of calcium, more calcium. So calcium comes from outside as well as that stored in sarcoplasmic reticulum. This calcium will bind to troponin, and it will lead to muscle contraction via actin troponin tropomyosin complex, and this will generate the force of contraction. Remember, we are talking about the muscle cell, not the nodal cell. Okay, so force of contraction is generated that way, and after that after the contraction is done, calcium is released free into the cell. This free calcium goes outside the cell. It is not very easy to push the calcium outside the cell, because inside the cell the concentration of calcium is in micromolar, that is 0.1 micromolar, while outside the cell it is in millimoles. So it is very difficult to pump against the concentration gradient. So for that we have got secondary. Against the concentration gradient means we need active transport, and here we got secondary active transport, which is the NCX pump. The N stands for sodium, C stands for calcium, X stands for exchanger. What is secondary active transport? It is nothing. It is a co-transport clubbed with a primary active transport. So primary active transport is sodium potassium pump. So one calcium molecule goes outside the cell, and 3 sodium enter into the cell. These 3 sodium is molecules, they are again pumped back outside the cell with the help of sodium potassium ATPase pump. Okay, so this is the normal cardiac physiology. Now where does the role of digoxin comes in? Low output cardiac failure, there is less force of contraction, while so we need to increase that. We can use beta 2 sympathomimetic to increase the force of contraction. They can be used, but they are not used that much, because the beta 2 receptor sensitizes very fast. Okay, so it desensitizes, not sensitizes, it desensitizes, which lead to and they won't respond if we give for longer time. Okay, then another drug came, phosphodiesterase inhibitor, which will not affect the beta 1 receptor, and it will lead to increase in force of contraction. These drugs are inamrinone and milrinone. These can be used. While we are going to discuss major part, that is digoxin. Digoxin it binds to the sodium potassium ATPase pump at the site where potassium is entering inside. So it is gonna bind here. Digoxin binds here, which will lead to increase in intracellular sodium. This cannot generate the force of calcium to go out, force for calcium to go out. Decrease extracellular, increase intercellular calcium, increase sarcoplasmic reticulum stores. Okay, so this sodium is accumulated inside the cell. Okay, remember that, and so that calcium cannot go out, so it will lead to increased force of contraction here. This is known as positive inotropic effect. So this was the mechanism of action of digoxin. It increases the force of contraction, and thus way it helps in acute congestive heart failure. And digoxin has got indirect activity on the vagus nerve also. Digoxin is lipid soluble. It enters the CNS by crossing the blood-brain barrier. First of all, it is increasing force of contraction, so it will stimulate baroreceptors. So it will lead to increased baroreceptor firing. Baroreceptor fire via vagus nerve. Okay, vagus is acting on the heart via M receptor. Okay, muscarinic receptors. So this vagus nerve, they cross the blood-brain barrier and reach the CNS and reach the medulla, stimulate vagus nerve. Vagus is cardioinhibitory. It is the receptors for vagus nerve are present on the nodes, not on the muscles. So SA node and AV node, and thus that way it will also reduce heart rate, and it also reduces conduction velocity. Thus cardioinhibitory effect of digoxin is produced that way. Thank you so much, guys.